The stars above Earth looked different now. Once they had been symbols of hope and discovery, shining points that promised adventure and future glory. Now they felt cold and distant, silent witnesses to a war humanity had never been ready to fight. Ships burned in orbit like falling comets, and the last defense fleets struggled to hold against enemies far more advanced than anything humans had imagined. Captain Elias Kane stood on the bridge of his damaged cruiser, watching the battle unfold through cracked glass and flickering holographic displays. His uniform was worn and scarred from months of constant fighting, but his eyes still carried the stubborn fire that had made him a legend among surviving human forces. They called him Earth's last hope, though he never believed the title himself. He was only a man who refused to quit. "Energy reserves dropping," his pilot said quietly. "We cannot outrun them." Kane nodded once. He had already seen the readings. 3 enemy ships surrounded them, sleek and alien, their purple energy signatures glowing like distant lightning. The empire they served had crushed entire civilizations. Humanity had fought back with courage, creativity, and desperation, but courage alone could not stop overwhelming power forever. "Prepare evacuation pods," Kane ordered calmly. The crew hesitated. They had followed him through impossible battles, through victories that should have been defeats. Leaving now felt like surrender. "It's not surrender," Kane said, sensing their thoughts. "It's survival. Humanity survives because we keep going." Before anyone could respond, the enemy ships fired. A wave of violet light struck the cruiser, sending vibrations through the hull. Systems failed one by one. Alarms screamed. The stars outside blurred as gravity fluctuated. Then suddenly silence. The enemy weapons powered down. Instead of another attack, a beam of soft purple light surrounded Kane's ship, locking it in place. "Captain," the pilot whispered. "They're not destroying us." Kane frowned. That made no sense. The Empire did not spare enemies. Moments later, a transmission appeared on the main screen. Strange alien symbols flickered before translating into human language. "Human Commander Elias Kane, you are ordered to surrender. You will not be harmed." The voice was calm, deep, and strangely gentle. Kane felt unease. He had expected death, not mercy. He straightened his shoulders. "All hands stand down," he said quietly. "Let's see what they want." The Imperial capital world was more beautiful than Kane expected. Massive towers rose like living crystal, glowing with soft violet light. Floating platforms moved through the sky like silent ships, and alien citizens walked peacefully beneath arches of shining metal and stone. Kane felt anger as much as awe. While human worlds burned, this empire thrived without fear. He was escorted through vast halls by tall guards wearing elegant armor. Their faces were calm, almost curious as they watched him. Humans were rare here. Perhaps he was the first many of them had ever seen. The throne chamber opened before him, enormous and filled with quiet power. At the far end stood the Empress. Her skin shimmered with deep shades of purple, almost glowing under the light. Long silver hair fell across her shoulders, and her eyes held an intelligence that felt ancient and sharp. She did not wear heavy armor like a warlord. Instead, her clothing flowed like starlight, suggesting control without needing force. Empress Nysera. The ruler humanity feared above all. Kane walked forward without kneeling. The guards shifted slightly, but Nysera raised a hand, stopping them. "So," she said softly, her voice echoing through the chamber, "this is the human who refuses to lose." Kane met her gaze. "If you brought me here to watch me bow, you wasted your time." A quiet murmur spread through the court. No one spoke to the Empress that way, but instead of anger, Nysera smiled faintly. "You are exactly as the reports described," she said, unafraid. "I am afraid," Kane replied honestly. "I just don't let fear decide for me." That answer surprised her. She studied him more closely, as if searching for something beneath the surface. "You have fought longer than any other human commander," she said. "Why continue when defeat is inevitable?" "Because humanity doesn't measure victory the same way you do," he said. "We survive, we protect each other, that's enough." Silence filled the room. Nysera felt something unfamiliar, curiosity mixed with respect. She dismissed the court, leaving only herself and the human. "Walk with me," she said. They moved through a garden suspended above the city. Strange alien plants glowed softly, their colors shifting with the breeze. The view stretched endlessly, showing an empire untouched by war. "You hate us," Nysera said without accusation. Kane answered honestly. "Your fleets destroyed my home." Her expression softened slightly. I inherited this war. It began before my rule. That caught him off guard. She continued walking. The Empire believes strength ensures peace. Conquest prevents future conflict. I am expected to follow this path. And do you? He asked. She paused, watching distant stars. I believed I did. The way she said it made him wonder. For the first time, Cain saw not just an enemy ruler, but a person carrying heavy expectations. Over the next days, Nysera requested more conversations. She asked about human culture, history, even humor. Cain answered carefully, unsure of her motives but sensing genuine interest. He noticed something else too. She listened, truly listened. One evening, alarms suddenly echoed through the palace. An explosion shook the ground. Guards rushed forward as an assassination attempt unfolded not against Cain, but against Nysera herself. Without thinking, Cain moved. He pushed her aside as energy fire struck where she had stood seconds before. The attacker was captured quickly, but the moment changed everything. Nysera stared at him afterward. You risked your life for me. Why? Because you were in danger, he said simply. But I am your enemy. Cain hesitated. Maybe, but I don't let people die when I can stop it. She watched him silently, something shifting behind her calm exterior. Rumors spread quickly across the empire. The Empress was spending too much time with the human. Some advisors whispered that he influenced her thinking. Nysera began to question long-held beliefs. Humans were supposed to be weak, chaotic, emotional. Yet Cain showed strength through compassion, not domination. And for the first time in years, she wondered whether power alone truly created stability. Late one night, she revealed a secret. There are factions within my empire who want humanity erased, she said quietly. They believe mercy invites rebellion. And you? He asked. I believe understanding may prevent endless war, she admitted. The words felt dangerous even to her. Cain realized then that Nysera was not the unstoppable tyrant he imagined. She was a leader standing between tradition and change, unsure which path would save her people. Outside, the stars burned brightly, watching two enemies slowly become something else. Not yet allies, not yet friends, but no longer strangers. And somewhere deep within both of them, a realization began to grow. The war between their species might not end through victory. It might end through trust. Nysera did not sleep much after that night. The palace had returned to its smooth, quiet rhythm, but something underneath it felt different now, like the whole place was holding its breath. Guards doubled in the corridors. Advisors whispered behind closed doors. The city below still glowed with calm violet lights, yet Cain could feel tension moving through the air like a storm that had not broken yet. Cain stayed in a secured wing of the palace, but secured did not feel like a prison anymore. His door was not locked. Food arrived with polite servants instead of armed escorts. Some guards even nodded to him as if he were a strange guest rather than a captured enemy. That made him uneasy. Mercy could be a trap. Comfort could be a chain. One morning, Nysera invited him again. No court, no audience, only two guards at a distance standing still like statues. She led him into a high balcony corridor that looked out over the capital. The sky was pale, and small transport craft drifted in quiet lines. Far away, mountains rose like dark teeth. Cain could almost forget there was a war, almost forget that human worlds were still burning. Nysera rested her hands on the railing. She did not look at him at first. You have changed the way my advisors see you, she said. Cain let out a short breath. I didn't plan to. You saved my life, she replied. They cannot call you weak now, but they can call you dangerous. Cain studied her face. She looked calm, but her eyes carried a tight edge. Who sent the attacker? Nysera's jaw tightened. Someone inside my empire who believes I have become uncertain. Have you? She finally looked at him. Yes. The honesty surprised him, and he could tell it surprised her too. Empresses were not supposed to admit doubt. Cain turned toward the city. Back on Earth, we say a leader who cannot doubt is a leader who will never learn. Nysera's lips pressed together as if she was deciding whether to accept that idea. My empire values certainty. It is how the throne survives. And is it how your people survive? Cain asked. Nysera said nothing, but her silence felt like an answer. Later that day, she brought him to a secure chamber beneath the palace. The doors opened with a soft hiss. Inside, a wide room held a circle of floating screens, each showing different parts of the empire. Fleet movements, trade routes, political territories, and a highlighted cluster labeled with symbols Kane recognized from earlier translations. Human space. Kane felt his chest tighten. Why show me this? Nysera walked around the circle of screens slowly, her footsteps quiet on the polished floor. Because I want you to understand what you face, and because I want you to understand what I face. Kane noticed several Imperial fleets positioned near human borders. They were not moving yet, but they were ready. You're preparing another strike, Kane said, keeping his voice steady. I am preparing for what others may force, Nysera replied. There are factions. Powerful ones, they believe finishing humanity will secure the Empire's future. And you do, he asked. Nysera lifted her chin slightly. I believe finishing humanity will create a wound the Empire will never heal from. Kane stared at her. That's not what I expected to hear from you. Nysera's eyes narrowed just a little. You expected a monster. Kane did not deny it. I expected the person who signed the orders. I sign many orders, she said. Some I hate, some I do not fully agree with. Some I signed because refusing would ignite civil war and destroy more lives than the order itself. Kane felt something twist inside him. He had faced impossible choices too, but never on this scale. Nysera waved a hand and one screen zoomed in on a section of space marked with red warnings. The symbols were unfamiliar. What is that? Kane asked. Nysera's voice lowered. A threat beyond you and me, raiders at the edge of the galaxy, not pirates, not rebels, something worse. They do not negotiate, they do not build, they consume and move on. Kane's stomach sank. Then why are you still fighting humanity? Nysera's gaze hardened. Because the Empire cannot appear weak. If my rule shows mercy, rivals see a crack, they strike. And when they strike, the raiders also move. Kane walked closer to the screen, studying the patterns. Humans were caught between forces they could barely understand. His people had been fighting for survival while unseen dangers circled like wolves. Nysera watched him as if measuring how much truth he could handle. I brought you here for another reason, she said quietly. I want to speak with your remaining leaders. Kane's eyes snapped toward her. You want to negotiate. I want to attempt peace, she said. A ceasefire, a pause, time to redirect fleets toward the raiders before they reach the inner systems. Kane's heart pounded. It sounded like hope, but hope could kill if it was false. And your warlords? He asked. Nysera's expression turned colder. They will resist. They will call it weakness. They will attempt to stop it. Kane's fists tightened. Then why risk it? Nysera hesitated. For a moment she looked less like an empress and more like a person standing on a narrow bridge over fire. Because every time I speak with you, I see something my empire has forgotten, a kind of strength we do not understand. Kane swallowed. Stubbornness? Nysera's eyes softened. Heart? Kane did not know what to say to that. He looked away, feeling a strange heat behind his ribs. That night, Nysera's palace faced another attack. This time it was not one assassin. It was a coordinated strike. Security systems went dark in sections. Drones slipped through ventilation shafts. Explosions shook distant corridors, not enough to collapse the palace, but enough to create chaos. Kane was in his room when the lights flickered out. His instincts kicked in. He moved quietly, listening. The hallway outside filled with running footsteps and sharp commands in alien language. A guard burst in breath fast. Human, stay inside. Kane stepped forward. What's happening? The guard's eyes were wide. A breach. Someone wants the Empress dead. Kane's mind focused like a blade. If Nysera died, any chance of peace died with her. Humanity would face the full force of the Empire without restraint. He could not let that happen. He pushed past the guard. The guard grabbed his arm, but Kane twisted free. I'm not your enemy right now, Kane said. Lead me to her. The guard hesitated, then nodded once, as if deciding that survival mattered more than rules. They moved through side corridors, avoiding main halls where chaos spread. The palace was a maze, but Kane began to learn it, using sound, instinct, and the guard's quick gestures. They reached a wide chamber and found Nysera surrounded by a small group of elite protectors. Her posture was steady, but the tension around her was sharp. Her eyes locked on Kane. Why are you here? Because if you die, we all lose, Kane said. Nysera's expression flickered surprise, then something warmer that she quickly hid. You should have stayed secured. I didn't come this far to sit in a room, Kane said. Before she could reply, the chamber doors slammed open. A squad of armored attackers surged in, their weapons humming with violet charge. They wore Imperial armor, but their insignias were altered, stripped of loyalty. A coup. Nicera's protectors moved to defend. Kane grabbed a fallen weapon from a guard's rack, something like a short staff that pulsed with energy. He did not fully understand it, but the grip felt natural enough. The attackers fired. Bright blasts streaked through the air, shattering pillars and leaving glowing marks. Kane ducked and rolled behind a support beam, his mind calm in the storm. He had fought battles with worse odds. He had learned that panic was a luxury. Nicera moved with surprising speed, her own weapon forming from a bracelet-like device into a sleek energy blade. She fought with precise efficiency, not wild anger. Every movement was controlled, as if she had trained for this since childhood. Kane watched her for half a second and understood. She did not rule by words alone. She ruled because she could survive. He stepped out and struck with the staff, sending a burst of force that knocked one attacker back without tearing them apart. He avoided deadly hits, using the weapon to disable, to push, to create space. He did not want blood on his hands here. He wanted Nicera alive. The fight surged through the chamber like a wave. Guards fell back, regrouping. The attackers pressed harder, shouting orders. Then Kane heard it, a voice through a comm device, loud and confident, speaking the Empire's language. The translation in Kane's ear implant caught enough. "Bring her down, the throne must be corrected." Nicera's eyes narrowed. She recognized the voice. "Varrock," she said through clenched teeth. Kane's mind registered the name, the warlord, the one who wanted humanity erased. The one who believed fear was strength. Nicera's protector leaned toward her. "We must retreat, Empress." Nicera glanced at Kane. "There is a safe route through the inner vault." Kane nodded. "Then move." They retreated through a side door into narrow corridors. Behind them, the sound of battle continued. The palace, once silent and perfect, now shook with unrest. As they ran, Kane noticed Nicera breathing harder, not fear but strain. She was not used to running from her own people. They reached a sealed door. Nicera placed her hand on it. The door scanned her and opened into a passage lit by dim violet strips. Inside, the air smelled cold, almost metallic. "This leads to the inner vault," Nicera said. "Few know of it. Fewer can access it." Kane followed, scanning behind them. "What's inside?" Nicera's voice softened slightly, as if speaking about something sacred. "The core of Imperial control, communication keys, defense protocols, the codes my enemies want." Kane understood. If Varrock captured that, he could seize the Empire's fleets, turn them fully against humans, and crush any dissent. They moved deeper until they reached a wide chamber with a central pillar of crystal that glowed like a heart. Screens hovered around it, pulsing with encrypted patterns. Nicera stepped toward it, her face tight with focus. "If Varrock reaches this, everything ends." Kane's jaw tightened. "Then we stop him." Nicera's fingers moved across the air, activating systems. A map appeared, showing Varrock's forces spreading through the palace. "He planned this for months," Nicera said quietly. "He had supporters, he had patience." Kane watched her. "So do you." Nicera looked at him, and for a brief moment the room felt smaller, quieter, as if the whole war outside paused just to listen. "You have no reason to help me," she said. Kane's voice was low. "Maybe I do." Nicera's eyes widened slightly. She did not speak, but something passed between them, an understanding that neither fully named. Then alarms flared again, closer. Varrock's forces had found the vault route. Nicera's protectors formed a defensive line at the entrance. Kane stepped beside them, gripping the energy staff tighter. They waited. Footsteps echoed down the passage, heavy and confident. A shape appeared, a tall figure in dark armor with a broad stance, surrounded by elite soldiers. His visor lifted, revealing a stern alien face with sharp features and cold eyes. "Varrock." He looked at Nicera first, then at Kane. "And here is the proof," Varrock said, his voice calm and poisonous. "The Empress hides with the human. She has been softened." Nicera's chin lifted. "You are committing treason." Varrock laughed once. "I am correcting weakness." He stepped forward. "Give me the codes, Nicera. Step down. I will spare your life and keep your legacy intact." Nicera's eyes narrowed. "My legacy will be peace." Varrock's gaze flicked to Kane. "Peace with parasites." Kane's body stiffened, but he kept his face controlled. He had heard worse insults. Words were weapons meant to make people lose control. Nicera's voice sharpened. "You forget yourself." Varrock's soldiers raised their weapons. Nicera's protectors did the same. The air felt like it would ignite. Kane took a slow breath, then stepped forward slightly, placing himself just ahead of Nicera without fully blocking her. It was a small move, but it mattered. Varrock's eyes narrowed. Human. You think you belong here? Kane met his gaze. I belong wherever survival is decided. Varrock's smile was thin. Then you will die with her. Kane didn't flinch. Try. The fight erupted. Energy blasts filled the passage and chamber, flashing bright enough to burn afterimages into Kane's vision. He moved with careful precision, using cover, disarming where he could, pushing back attackers rather than destroying them. Nysera fought like a storm contained in a blade. She moved through Varrock's soldiers with controlled fury, each strike clean, each step sure. She wasn't cruel, she was determined. Kane noticed something else. Varrock's soldiers hesitated sometimes, glancing at Nysera as if part of them remembered loyalty. That hesitation was small, but it was real. Nysera saw it too. Stand down, she called, her voice carrying through the chaos. You are being used, some faltered. Varrock roared, barking orders. He struck one of his own soldiers with the butt of his weapon, forcing them forward. Fear replaced doubt. Kane's anger rose, hot and sharp, not for himself, for the way Varrock used fear like a leash. Kane moved faster, his staff crackling as he struck weapons out of hands, knocked soldiers off balance, broke their formation. He wasn't trying to be heroic. He was trying to create space for Nysera to reach Varrock. Nysera and Varrock finally faced each other near the central crystal pillar. Their blades clashed, violet light sparking. Varrock was strong, but Nysera was smarter. She flowed around his attacks, refusing to be pushed into rage. Varrock snarled. You have changed. Nysera's voice was steady. I have awakened. Varrock lunged. Nysera dodged, and Kane saw an opening. He darted in and struck Varrock's weapon arm with a burst from the staff, not enough to destroy, enough to stun. Varrock staggered, shocked, and Nysera's blade pressed to his throat. For 1 second, the chamber went silent except for the hum of power. Nysera could have ended it there. Kane saw the decision flicker behind her eyes. The easy path would be to remove Varrock permanently, but Nysera lowered her weapon slightly. You will face judgment, she said. Varrock's laughter came out broken. Judgment from who? Your court, your loyalists, your human pet. Nysera's eyes hardened. From the empire you claim to protect. Varrock's gaze flicked, and Kane sensed the danger too late. Varrock activated a hidden device on his wrist. A pulse surged through the chamber, disrupting the vault systems. Screens flickered wildly. The crystal pillar's glow stuttered. Nysera's expression flashed with alarm. He's trying to lock the codes. A second pulse hit, stronger. The chamber shook. The vault's defenses began to seal, but in the wrong way, like a door slamming shut with people still inside. Nysera stepped toward the crystal pillar, trying to regain control. Kane moved with her. Varrock's soldiers, seeing their leaders move, began to retreat. Varrock himself backed away, grinning even as he stumbled. If I cannot take your throne today, he said, I will take your credibility. The Empire will see what you have become. He vanished into the corridor chaos, leaving Nysera and Kane in the vault as systems tried to stabilize. Nysera's hands moved fast, but her voice tightened. He has triggered a lockdown. If I cannot override it, the palace communications will be severed. My loyalists will be isolated. Varrock will spread lies across the Empire. Kane stepped beside her. Tell me what to do. Nysera looked at him, surprised again. You cannot access these systems. Maybe not, Kane said, but I can think like a human. Nysera hesitated, then nodded sharply. The pillar needs a stabilizing sequence. 3 points. I handle the core, you handle the side consoles. Kane ran to the nearest console. Symbols danced across the surface, but his implant translated enough to show basic warnings and numbers. He didn't understand everything, so he relied on what he did understand. Patterns, timing, logic. Human engineers survived because they made broken things work. Kane treated the console like a dying engine. Nysera, he called, I need a sequence. Follow the pulse rhythm, she shouted back. Match the intervals. Kane watched the flicker. The pulses were not random. They repeated like a heartbeat. He tapped the console in time with the pulses, sending countersignals. The system resisted. He adjusted. He kept going. Nysera's voice grew strained. Hold it, hold it. Kane clenched his teeth and stayed steady. Sweat ran down his neck. The console burned with heat under his palms. Finally, the pulses slowed. The crystal pillar steadied. The screens stopped flickering. The lockdown stopped halfway, enough to keep communications partially open, enough to keep the palace defenses active. Nysera exhaled sharply, her shoulders dropping just a fraction. She looked at Kane with something close to disbelief. You did it, she said softly. Kane leaned against the console, breathing hard. We did it. The words hung between them. Outside, the palace was still unstable. Varrock was still free. Loyalists and rebels still clashed in corridors. The Empire had just taken a step toward civil war. Nysera walked toward Kane, her expression serious but quieter now, like she had removed a mask for a moment. You should hate me, she said. Kane looked at her. I did. Nysera's eyes flickered. And now? Kane didn't answer immediately. He thought about Earth, about lost ships, lost friends, lost years. He thought about the way Nysera listened, the way she chose restraint, the way she looked at her own empire and admitted doubt. I don't know what I feel yet, Kane said honestly. But I know this. If Varrock wins, humanity dies, and your empire becomes a cage made of fear. Nysera's voice lowered. Then we stop him, Kane nodded. Then we stop him. Nysera's gaze held his, steady and intense. Her hand lifted slightly as if she might touch his shoulder, then she stopped herself, lowering it again. A small gesture. But to Kane it felt louder than any speech, because it meant she wanted to cross a line and was afraid of what crossing it would cost. A messenger rushed into the vault chamber, panting. Empress, Varrock has fled the capital. He is broadcasting from a fleet node. He claims you have been corrupted by the human prisoner. He demands the Empire remove you. Nysera's face turned cold. Of course he does, the messenger swallowed. Some sectors are already listening. Some fleets are shifting allegiance. Kane's chest tightened. If he controls fleets, Nysera nodded once. He will strike human space to prove his strength. He will do it quickly. Kane's mind raced. Then we have to warn them now. Nysera turned to the console pillar, activating a communication channel that could reach beyond the palace, beyond the capital, toward the scattered remnants of humanity. Her voice became the Empress's voice, clear, commanding, undeniable. Open a secure line to Human Resistance Command, she ordered. Override all filters. This is not a request. The system hesitated, then obeyed. A screen formed in the air, static. Then a human face appeared, older, exhausted, wary. A Commander Kane recognized from distant briefings. The human's eyes widened. Captain Kane, are you alive? Kane stepped forward. I'm alive, and I'm standing with Empress Nysera. The commander's expression shifted into shock and suspicion. Explain. Nysera moved beside Kane, her presence filling the screen even through distance. Human Commander, she said calmly. Your war may soon worsen. A warlord named Varrock is attempting to seize control of my empire. If he succeeds, he will attack your remaining worlds without restraint. The human commander's jaw tightened. Why should we believe you? Nysera did not flinch. Because if I wanted you destroyed, I would not be speaking. I would be sending fleets. Kane added, she's telling the truth. I've seen the maps. Varrock is moving fast. The human commander stared at Kane as if trying to decide whether Kane had been broken or fooled. Nysera leaned slightly closer to the screen. I am offering a ceasefire. Not because I fear you, but because the galaxy has bigger threats, and because I believe your species deserves a future. Silence followed. Then the human commander spoke carefully. If this is a trap, it is not, Kane said. We don't have time for pride. The human commander's eyes narrowed, then softened a fraction. What do you need? Nysera answered. Time and cooperation. I will hold back loyal fleets from striking your space. You must relocate civilians and fortify key routes. Varrock will aim for symbolic destruction. He wants fear. Kane looked at the screen. Tell the others, spread the warning, keep moving. The human commander nodded slowly. Understood. The channel closed. Nysera exhaled. For the first time, she looked tired. Kane watched her, feeling a strange pull in his chest. She was an empress, yes, but she was also someone standing against her own empire for what she believed was right. He spoke quietly. You just risked everything. Nysera's eyes met his. So did you? Outside the vault, the palace trembled again with distant conflict. The empire was cracking, and the war was shifting into something more dangerous. Kane understood the truth now. Part of saving humanity would mean fighting not just aliens, but the fear inside both species. The kind of fear that made people choose destruction because it felt safer than hope. Nysera turned away from the crystal pillar and faced Kane fully. Captain Kane, she said, voice low but firm, from this moment forward you are no longer my prisoner. Kane's breath caught. Then what am I? Nysera paused, as if the word she wanted was too risky to speak. Then she said, my ally. Kane nodded once. Then let's end this the right way. Nysera's gaze held his a moment longer than necessary. Yes, she whispered. the right way. And as alarms echoed through the palace once more, the human called Earth's last hope, and the purple-skinned Empress stepped into a future neither of them had planned. One where trust was a weapon, mercy was a risk, and love, if it grew, would have to survive the fire of an entire empire trying to tear it apart.